Hello, this is the first edition of the new show, Vermont Today, where we will be talking about issues of importance in Vermont today. My name is Terry Jeroloman. My guest here is Ken Lawless. We both live in the city of Burlington. The amount of money spent on that war in Iraq, I think it's up to $500 billion now. Could you imagine what could be done with all that money in the schools, health care, Social Security? But of course, the people that rule America, the oligarchs, they don't care. They have all the money they need. And the normal people in America don't have the opportunity to run for office. If they vote in Florida, we know that some people were denied the vote. Not only were they not allowed to vote, but after they voted, the votes weren't counted. And you spoke about the Gilded Age and the robber barons in the 1920s. At one point in the 1960s, it looked as if things were getting better. The president, Lyndon Johnson, initiated a Great Society, and there were efforts to make a better life for everyone. But now, since Reagan's new economic policies, which were, and then his vice president, Bush's father, and now George W. Bush, it seems to me that we've gone back to the Gilded Age of the robber barons, or maybe even worse. Is there anything left of the Great Society, do you think, Ken?
Well, yes. We still have the basic New Deal intact, except for the notorious Taft-Hartley Law of 1947, which makes it very difficult to organize labor unions. And if, for example, the strikers at one corporation or factory boycott the product, if anyone from another corporation or union boycotts, that's a secondary boycott, considered a illegal restraint of trade. I mean, if we could repeal the Taft-Hartley Act, we could at least then try to organize all of the workers so that they can work toward establishing their own rights and responsibilities. The other problem with all of this is that it's our children and grandchildren who are going to pay off these massive debts from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan particularly, and from a federal budget, half of which goes to the Pentagon. There are unknown amounts being spent on the CIA and the National Security Agency, which is 3 times larger than the CIA. And while there is oversight of their budgets, we don't really know how much money they're actually spending, because that's a secret. What isn't secret is that it's an awful lot. So if you really consider this part of the military effort, I mean, that's what we're doing the espionage for, is to protect ourselves militarily. But also we have forward bases, that is, attack bases with, fighter bombers and, other missiles to attack places. We have those bases in over 120 nations. It's not obvious that we need forward military bases, air, land, and sea forces in 120 places to protect ourselves. From whom? So it would be nice to see that money for schools and hospitals and the maintenance of our infrastructure, as they call it, which is the sewer system and the electric lines, all of which need constant maintenance, and which would provide, adequate incomes for people. When I was a boy in the 50s, 1 full-time salary would support a family very nicely. Now there are people with 2 full-time salaries looking for a second part-time job to keep up with the rate of inflation. The purchasing power has declined significantly, particularly since the Reagan administration, though not because of it.
You talk about protecting ourselves. Now, that's a common expression. We talk about ourselves. But is it ourselves? We just went through the problem of democracy here in America. And what are ourselves? Are ourselves the plutocratic oligarchs who rule America? Now, the question of Iraq. Saddam Hussein provided national health insurance for all of his people. So what are we doing when we protect ourselves in Iraq? We're going over there and we're putting an end to an administration which is giving their people national health insurance. Well, of course, the ourselves is the plutocratic oligarchs who rule America, and they don't want an administration over there to give national health insurance to all of their people, because people here in America might decide, well, it would be a good idea if we could have national health insurance here in America. In fact, I lived in Canada for a while. I lived for 3 years in Montreal and Toronto, and I had the national health insurance card there. It's called the Carte de Soleil in Quebec. And I was able to go to any doctor I wanted to. There was no waiting, or if I had to wait in the office, it was maybe half an hour. I've waited longer than that here in America. And everything was free. The services were free. The medicine was free. If I had to go to the hospital, that was free. And the doctors weren't rushed. My last exam in Toronto, the doctor spent a whole hour with me. Why can't we have national health insurance here in America? But in Iraq, Saddam Hussein gave his people national health insurance. But we put an end to all that. Now we've killed 100,000 Iraqis, and how many dead Americans now? 3,000 dead Americans. But what does George Bush care? His children don't have to go into the army. The soldiers are the children of the people who need the money, the normal people. If you don't need the money, you don't go into a professional army. Yes, well, we're running out of time now, and I hope that people have learned something by our discussion, and we will have to continue with the next program. You're welcome to send emails. My email address is jeroloman@alumni.neu.edu, as you can see printed at the bottom of the screen. And we will see you with our next mission. Thank you.